Greetings and welcome to Western Recaps. Today, I will be going over a 1993 film called Posse. Beware, spoilers ahead. The movie begins during the Spanish-American War. A group of black U.S. troops led by Van Peebles, Charles Lane, Tom Locke, Tiny Lister, and their white friend Stephen Baldwin battle valiantly but are undermined by their corrupt white commander Billy Zane. The story is relayed in flashbacks by an anonymous old guy, Woody Strode. The film's title alludes to a group of people who are called in to assist law enforcement personnel. Recruited Buffalo soldiers from the United States Army's 10th Cavalry Regiment, headed by Jesse Lee, Mario Van Peebles, are compelled to serve in the Spanish-American War in Cuba in 1898. Jesse returns to Colonel Graham's Billy Zane's command post to request that the 10th Cavalry be permitted to withdraw. Colonel Graham instructs Jesse to shoot a white prisoner in return for enabling the 10th Division to depart. Jesse, unable to murder a man in horrific ways, exhibits exceptional precision by shooting the victim's cigar from his lips. Colonel Graham subsequently murders the prisoner and offers Jesse's leadership of the 10th to Little J, Stephen Baldwin, another white prisoner. Graham then instructs the 10th to withdraw in order to undertake another operation, this time in civilian attire rather than their cavalry uniforms. They are instructed to plunder a Spanish gold shipment in order to provide the colonel with a reason to kill the whole 10th Cavalry as traitors. As he prepares to meet them, armed with his own cavalry force, he assists Wheezy. Charles Lane creates a diversion, allowing the 10th to shoot down the colonel and his cavalry. With Colonel Graham and his troops presumed dead, Jesse, Abobo, Tiny Lister, Angel, Tom Locke, and Little J, together with Wheezy, sneak out of Cuba and Jesse takes them to New Orleans. Soon after they arrive, Little J meets Father Time, Big Daddy Kane, a gambler, and they start playing poker, at which point Time is found cheating. Little J assists the gambler in escaping, and they return to the hotel room where the rest are hiding, telling them that they were never present there in fear of the vengeful gamblers coming after them. The gamblers arrive in quest of Jay and Father Time, only to be killed in the back by Colonel Graham and his forces, who survived the battle in Cuba. Angel is killed in the battle, but Little J, Father Time, and the rest escape with their lives. They run upon Jesse, who had departed earlier to do some business at a town in the west. Colonel Graham is hot on their tail as the freshly constituted posse moves west. They ultimately come to a halt in a town where Jesse has gold ammo custom crafted to slay the demons of his past, using one to murder the guy who produced the ammunition, and he was one of the men who hanged Jesse's father, King David, Robert Hooks, years before. Voodoo ladies in New Orleans believe that gold is the only way to kill a demon. They travel to Freemanville, a town built by King David and exclusively made up of African Americans. Jesse re-encounters numerous old friends, including his longtime friend Carver, Blair Underwood, who had become the sheriff of Freemanville. Carver's deputy travels to Cuttertown to avoid informing anybody that Carver is working with Cuttertown Sheriff Bates, Richard Jordan. Jesse has returned to Freemanville. He informs Bates. The posse enjoys the hospitality of Freemanville until Bates informs Carver that unless Jesse is given up to him and his deputies, the town will burn. Sheriff Bates and one of his deputies were men that had lynched King David and were afraid that Jesse had come back for revenge. Bates and a handful of his officers storm Freemanville that night in search of Jesse. In an attempt to extract answers, one of the deputies beats Wheezy. Little J, disgusted, strikes back in defense of Wheezy. Outnumbered, Bates and his men kick and beat Little J to death, while Abobo and Jesse's former mentor Papa Joe, Melvin Van Peebles, are transported to Cutterstown as hostages. Jesse and Father Time quickly save them by impersonating Ku Klux Klan members and assaulting the Cutterstown prison. Jesse assassinates one of King David's killers, one of the deputies. When he returns, he persuades the locals to oppose Sheriff Bates by claiming he wants the land to sell to the railroad when it comes through. When Bates rides into town the next day, the inhabitants of Freemanville resist him. Colonel Graham enters with his cavalry and a Gatling gun, which he uses to slaughter the peasants as they take the upper hand. Jesse charges the gun with a dynamic stick, damaging it and murdering some of Graham's troops. Meanwhile, Carver intends to depart with the rights to all of the Freemanville land, all of which is in his name, but is prevented by Papa Joe's daughter, Lana, Sally Richardson. Father Time arrives just in time to prevent Carver from injuring Lana. Time murders one of Carver's deputies, but is murdered himself by Carver. Before Carver can depart, he is stopped by Bates, who explains that they agreed to share the land's revenues by half. Jesse arrives just in time to learn about the arrangement and witnesses Carver's betrayal and death at the hands of Bates. In a battle, Jesse kills Bates, finally putting his previous demons to rest. Almost a century later, an elderly man is questioned by reporters about the black cowboys of the Old West. The man, who was a little child when he met Jesse in Freemanville, hands up by a tiny book that Jesse had given him to the reporters. Posse ends with the solemn end titles that conclude that white America abused its black residents both then and now. We even discover how much of the national wealth is presently held by African Americans. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss out on an interesting movie recap from our side. Until then, cheers!